Hey everyone, today I want to chat about something that's super close to my heart. The difference between just having a title and actually being a leader. As behavior analysts, we've been trained in what I believe is the greatest science in the world for making a positive difference. Behavior analysis. We use it all the time to help learners with special needs, and it works wonders. I know you've seen it. But when it comes to working with adults, especially when we're in a role with positional authority, we often drop the ball. We start blaming people, thinking they're lazy or just not motivated, using coercive approaches to get the performance we want. But we know better. It's not about the person, it's about the environment. If you're in a position where you're supporting others, you're often the most critical part of that environment. This means we need to reflect on our own behavior if we aren't getting the results we want. We have to do something more or less or differently, right? I often hear the mantra, do it for the kids. But in truth, we can't bring out the best in the kids we serve without bringing out the best in the professionals who serve them. When we fail to use our science with our teams, I like to call it behavioral myopia. We get tunnel vision, focusing too much on applying behavior analysis with the learners and forgetting that it's just as powerful in the workplace. Now, let me tell you, I didn't start out as someone you think of as a leadership specialist, whatever that is. As a young man, I was more into lifeguarding, surfing, and training for fights, as boxing. Stuff that really had nothing to do with the corporate world or helping people. Leadership wasn't on my radar at all until I experienced a lot of what I like to call shitty leadership. But those experiences got me thinking, what the heck is real leadership anyhow? I don't know. After I went back to school, got my specialist and doctorate focused on leadership, I realized something very important. My view on leadership, shaped by behavior analysis, was different from a lot of what's traditionally taught. Behavior analysis, especially through the lens of organizational behavior management, is the backbone of how I see leadership. It's all about understanding and improving human behavior to get better outcomes. It's not just for working with kids in clinics, homes, or classrooms. It applies to everything we do, including how we lead people. I mean, just about everything comes back to behavior. Take the concept of emotional intelligence, for example. It's a great concept, often associated with good leadership, right? But when you break it down, it's really about being aware of our behaviors, covert and overt, and their impact on the behavior of others. I'd argue it's really behavioral intelligence. The same goes for values-based leadership. When we talk about values like respect or integrity, we're really talking about specific behaviors like listening, acknowledging others' views, and treating people right. Now, let's get real and talk about ass clowns. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about behaviors. We've all been guilty of ass clownery at some point. It's not who we are, but what we do. That's okay because behavior can change. Ass clowns is just my way of describing some pretty lousy leadership behaviors. And it doesn't know race, religion, color, age, gender, nationality, and others. And ass clowns come in all different shapes and sizes. Clowns is just an acronym for critical, limiting, offensive, wearisome, negligent, and superficial. The behaviors associated with these response classes make someone a pain to work with and for. Behaviors like focusing only on results instead of the behaviors and people required to achieve them. Telling too much while listening and asking too little. I've been guilty of that one myself, that's for sure. Reprimanding more than rewarding. Failing to involve stakeholders. We have to involve stakeholders. If they author it, they will own it. Adhering to the philosophy, when you want the job done right, you got to do it yourself. That's not leadership. Treating people differently based on their position on the org chart. Now, folks, this one gets me. I don't care how much power you have, how much money you have, about the letters around your name, how many books you've written. None of that matters. Not about power, right? But I will judge you based on how you treat the people with the least amount of power. Incentivizing tattling, corporate spies, misrepresenting others' accomplishments as their own. Man, that's some real ass clownery there. Playing the blame game, demeaning others, and correcting them publicly and justifying as a lesson for all. Never do that. Not doing what they say, right? Poor say-do correlation. Regularly using the threat of consequences to drive performance. And that's the final one. And that is not okay. And that's not leadership. I think that's more akin to dictatorship. But here's the silver lining. As behavior analysts, we've got the tools to be and do better. We know how to change behavior, starting with our own. We don't have to be ass clowns. We can engage in leadership behavior from any position to create positive environments where good behaviors thrive for us and for our teams. So let's talk about what I call the 4 hats of leadership based on my best-selling book, Positional Authority Ain't Leadership, and it ain't. These hats, grounded in the 4-term contingency, are just functional response classes that provide different ways for us to approach leadership, depending on what our team or individuals need and want and under certain conditions. First is the leading hat. This is about creating that spark, getting your team excited about a goal. In behavioral terms, this hat is about motivating operations. It is actions that we engage in that have a value and behavior altering effect. It's what makes the goal matter to your team. Then there is the training hat. This one's about skill acquisition. It's one thing for your team to be inspired to move toward a goal, but they also need the skills to get there. With the training hat, you're ensuring your team has the tools they need to succeed. Next is the coaching hat. Now, leading and training are antecedent strategies. They might get behavior going in the right direction, but they won't keep it going. Coaching is about taking those skills and making sure they work in the real world by getting them in touch with consequences. It's about generalizing learned skills into the natural environment, guiding your team to see the real benefits of their hard work. Where training is about instructing, coaching is about asking and getting people to reflect on their behavior and the impact of it to get them in touch with naturally occurring reinforcement. People tend to be poor observers of their behavior, poor observers of the impact of their behavior on the environment, and also poor observers of the impact of the environment on their behavior. Coaching can really help there. And finally, there is the managing hat. Managing is about the maintenance of behavior to keep things running smoothly and avoid behavior drift. You're setting up systems so that the right behaviors get noticed and rewarded, one where existing contingencies can be leveraged to ensure everything stays on track. A great leader knows when to engage in leading, training, coaching, or managing. Each of these hats is necessarily connected to the principle of reinforcement, positive reinforcement ideally. If you're not using positive reinforcement deliberately aimed at value-added behavior as your main tool, you're going to run into trouble. Lots of it. Sure, sometimes you might need to use punishment or negative reinforcement, but those should be rare and always used to teach. And under conditions where there is liberal use of positive reinforcement for value-added behavior, punishment is often not experienced as aversive, but as something that helps us to correct an error so that we are able to perform better in service of valued outcomes. So here's the takeaway. Leadership is not about title. It's about the behaviors you show and the impact you have on the behavior of others. As behavior analysts, we've got a leg up because we understand the science of human behavior. We just need to apply it not only with learners, but also with our teams. We need to correct our behavior lens. We need to be aware if we're suffering from behavioral myopia. And we all have. And we all do. But by using the 4 hats of leadership and sticking to what we know about behavior analysis, we can create work environments where people feel valued, respected, and ready to do their best so they can help the learners we serve. Let's move beyond just having authority and step into real behavioral leadership. The kind that inspires, positively maintains behavior, and makes a real difference.